Hello and welcome to the Golden Wheel Tavern. It's so good to see you all again. I'm so glad you're all here. The fact that you show up regularly means so much to us. We appreciate all of you that have come back. And we appreciate all the new faces here. We appreciate every one of you once again. You mean so much to us because you are what keeps the tavern's torches burning. And not in render your body fat into fuel for our lanterns. But
sometimes.
I don't.
If you cause a nasty bar fight.
Bartender / tavern keep, who is a necromancer that takes everybody who commits bar fights in his bar, kills them, and raises them as undead servants to serve the bar.
Hell yeah.
Sounds horrifying. Anyways, now with the introductions out of the way, it's on to the Bartender's Brew. So, what's the Bartender's Brew for today?
Well, it's made with chocolate syrup and milk. It's chocolate milk.
What? Why? What's it called?
Chocolate milk.
We're not calling it...
It's called not your average Fairlife hot chocolate.
Why do you hate me?
I love you. Sorry, the moment of psychic damage across your face was worth it.
I hate that. And you know that.
I know.
Why would you bring it up?
For the psychic damage.
So you do hate me?
No.
You wish harm upon me?
No.
If you want to booze it up a little, you can add 2 ounces of coffee liqueur, 1 ounce of amaretto, and 2 dashes of black walnut bitters.
But we're recording this at 7:55 in the morning and I have to run a game later. So, no alcohol today.
I mean, I don't have to run a game, but it is...
You have to play in a game.
It is 7 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not gonna...
5 o'clock somewhere. We went to Margaritaville. You should know that.
Sorry, that's my bad. I'm sorry. Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
I should have known better.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to have a full glass of milk this early in the morning.
You say that as if people don't drink milk in the morning.
I don't.
I'm just saying it's a very common thing for people to do.
But I'm not a common person.
Sure.
I'm at least uncommon.
Sure.
If not rare. I'm not a mythic. Definitely not mythic.
Well, anyways, my chocolate milk is served in this lovely, lovely mug that I bought at Con of the North.
Con of the North! So, our eagle-eyed listeners may have noticed, and by eagle-eyed, I mean those who basically have reading comprehension.
Pretty rare on the internet these days.
May have noticed that this episode's title is a bit different than our usual title, and that's because we will not necessarily be having a Tales from the Tavern's Tables and a Tavern's Talking Topic this episode. We will have one section called Tales from the Talking Topic, or the Tavern's Tables.
I think it should be the Tavern's Talking Tables.
The Tavern's Talking Tables. Essentially, this is close to a story time episode.
Close as you're ever gonna get.
Close as you're ever gonna get to a pure story time episode. And that's because we just came back from, and those who have been listening a while might recognize this, Con of the North.
Yes.
So,
a delightful little convention.
What is Con of the North?
A delightful little convention.
What is a man but a delightful little convention?
Me explaining characters in the story I'm writing.
Oh, okay. Con of the North is a completely volunteer-run, non-profit organization designed solely for the purpose of fostering a sense of community among gamers, promoting the hobby of gaming, and providing the gaming community with the best possible environment to present their games. That tidbit was taken straight from the Con of the North website.
A Con of the North is a convention where you can go play all kinds of games, TTRPGs, computer games, board games, live-action role-play games, games you've never heard of, games that are still in development.
They have a LAN room, so you can go do a LAN session with
Isn't that computer
people.
Games?
That is computer games, but it's specifically the computers have to be networked together to each other. Yeah. So you can do like LAN parties, you can do LARP, you can do TTRPGs. It's essentially a tabletop game convention, right? But an important note is that it promotes the hobby of gaming and provide the gaming community with the best environment to present their games. Once again, taken from the website, which means it's not like your typical gaming convention. Like if you go to like, I don't know, PAX, or you go to, Gen Con, or you go to C2E2.
C2E2 is is not a gaming convention.
True, but it is an entertainment convention.
Yeah.
But you go to C2E2 and you have these like panels, and they don't have that at con.
No. I think it would be cool if they had a couple panels.
I think it could be interesting, but once again, that's not what they're focused on.
Yeah.
I think they do a good job of focusing on what they're focusing on.
If they brought their convention into like Thursday, and then if you bought like a DM badge, you can attend Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but Thursday is just like panels for like how to run, like running games and stuff like that.
That could be interesting.
Like DM advice panels.
Mm-hmm.
Or, because again, the convention isn't all about TTRPGs. Lots of people bring board games that are in their playtest design and share them with the community so that they can get feedback and stuff. Panels on like, making your board game the best it can be and stuff like that. I think that would be fun and cool, as I have heard the kids say.
So, Con of the North, of course, has multiple very notable features. So, the first one I want to mention is the open and free event admission and event submission.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you sign up for Con of the North, if you sign up as a game master, as in you're going to run a game, or you sign up as a referee, we'll cover the differences between those a little bit later, you can essentially just submit events, things you want to run, and you give them a rough time slot, how many people, give them a little description, and then they'll put it in the schedule for you for free. You don't have to pay to run a game other than buying the Game Master badge.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's free event admission. If you see a game you want to play in and there's open slots, you can join in. There is no cost. You can just join in. Unless, somebody's running, sealed Magic the Gathering draft. But in that case, it would be noted beforehand, hey, there is a small admission cost. But the vast majority of things, you just sign up and you go at the time that's going to play, and you go and play. Once you paid your badge, basically all the events, you're in. You're in whatever events you want to go into, which I think that's very nice because you're paying a single cost to get in, and then it's all about the community.
Yes. And there's a very dangerous vendor hall.
A very dangerous vendor hall. It is a very small vendor hall. It's not like artist's alley or anything.
No, it's a pretty small vendor hall. So Con of the North takes place in the Twin Cities area, and so a few of the booths at the vendor hall are just from the larger gaming stores in the area, which isn't bad because they hand out 20% off coupons if you want to go to their actual store and stuff. But there's also smaller businesses there, smaller artists, stuff like that. And it's dangerous. You can walk in there with money and walk out with none.
Because this is such a, focused on gaming con, you go in and there are a couple vendors that are just game stores that have set up shop there briefly. So The Source is one and Tower Games is another, and they're both there, and they have board games, they have TTRPGs, and they'll give you a coupon, so when you go to their actual store, you can get a discount. And then the thing is I played this TTRPG earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to the vendor hall. Oh, look, they have it here. Well, I'm in love with this TTRPG right now because I just played it. Going to grab it off the shelf.
Or if you're like us, I heard about this TTRPG, but I'm going to wait until both of us are there so we can discuss getting it. Great, both of us are together now. Let's go get it.
Yep.
Oh, you sold it 30 minutes ago and you don't have any more? Woohoo.
Woohoo. And then we went to their brick and mortar store with the coupon they gave us and bought it.
Yeah. And not sequel, but the expansion, I guess is a better word.
Yeah. The DLC for a TTRPG. At the add-on.
Yeah.
It's a small vendor hall, but because they know what they're catering to, like you said, very dangerous. You can get so many dice.
God, there's one shop, they're basically the dice shop. So many metal dice and beautiful dice and gorgeous dice and mystery bags of dice. And then there's another shop just down the way. They're more 3D printed stuff, but they have 3D printed eggs that they put dice in that you have to crush to receive your dice.
You have to break the egg open.
Yeah.
And then the 3D printed one has a bunch of different dice towers and gaming accessories.
They bring this 6.5 foot tall dice tower with them that you're able to roll a dice down if you follow them on social media.
And then if you get a nat 20, you get something.
Yeah, I think it's a discount. So.
Yeah.
But it's really fun to walk into a vendor hall and see a dice tower taller than you are.
Yeah. So they have a huge dice tower. But vendor hall is awesome. It's well focused. It's not like, if you go to a big convention, you'll go through the vendor hall and you'll be like, 3% of this is interesting to me.
Yeah. It's not like a big convention where the person you go with says, yeah, we have to look at all the booths before we can buy something. And so then by the time you've looked at all the booths, you don't even remember what you wanted to buy because there's only like 15 booths. So you get all the way through and you're like, yeah, I want to go back to that one and that one and that one and that one and that one. And it's all the booths.
Yeah. Also, don't jab at my system.
Jabbin'.
You have to look at all the stuff before you buy things.
Not if the vendor hall is that huge.
Because what you'll end up doing is you'll spend all your money halfway through, and then you'll reach the end and you'll be like, oh, but there's this expensive thing that I would have really liked to get, but I don't have the money anymore because I spent it earlier on other things because I didn't realize this really cool thing existed.
The biggest issue, though, is that if there's 100 booths, by the time you get to the end, you're not going to remember which booths or where they were.
Then it wasn't that important to you.
It was. I have ADHD, fuck you.
So, one of the things, and we discussed this last time we talked about Con of the North, that both of us really enjoy are the epics.
Yes. If you're familiar with Adventure League, you're familiar with epics because each Adventure League season they release 1 or 2 epics. Twinheim is another charity TTRPG organization that is up in Minnesota, but instead of how like Con of the North just runs a con, they show up, they run events and fundraise for Extra Life. When they're doing their fundraising, they run Adventure League events. Most notably, they run the epics. This year's epic, we stole some boats.
We stole not 1, but 2 boats. Because our first mission was steal this boat. Our second mission was go make friends with these people. And our third mission was there's this boat that's a problem and it needs dealt with. And our DM used the word commandeer to describe our 2 options of either sinking the boat or commandeering the boat. And our entire party went, commandeer, you say?
Get another boat.
So then we stole 2 boats.
Mm-hmm. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a great time. The epics are these huge, you're like playing, and then there's these announcements that can possibly change things up. It fosters a sense of community as, you and everyone else in this room are all like participating in one big thing all together. Even if you're not sitting at the same table, there's a degree of, parallel play between you and everyone else.
Yeah, because what someone's doing at the table 3 tables over can drastically affect how the story at your table goes, depending on if they're succeeding or failing at their mission, because that gets reported to the main dungeon master, who then makes announcements through it.
Yes. So it's community, it's fostering growth, and it's focused on games, as is the entire con. The entire Con of the North is focused on games and community, which is partly why they don't have any like celebrity panels, because they're like, hey, what we care about is giving people time and space to sit down and play Velvet Generation.
Hell yeah.
Or play a D&D 5th edition Learn to Play.
Fuck
or
yeah.
Play Garden in the Sky.
Which we didn't... If any of our listeners out there know what the hell Garden in the Sky is, please tell me. There was exactly 1 person who ran like maybe 3 or 4 Garden in the Sky events, and it never meshed with our schedule for me to be able to go to one and find out what the hell Garden in the Sky is. But every time I've tried looking online to find out what Garden in the Sky is, it doesn't exist. I can't find jack about it. So if you know what Garden in the Sky is, please end my suffering.
So, now we're going to pivot into talking about our experience at Con of the North this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, I do want to, before we do that, circle back to notable features, and I want to discuss the badge pricing for at least this year. Because Con of the North, essentially there are 3 types of badges that you'll care about. I guess if you're a vendor, there's another type of badge, but...
There's a few different types of badges, but there are 3 which cost money.
3 which cost money, and if you're going, you'd need to know about. So, all of them have 2 different price points, which is the pre-registration before the new year and then pre-registration/registration after the new year. So after January 1st, the price goes up. Actually, I can double check the exact numbers if I wanted to, because I should have.
Oh, right, you have the booklet.
I have the booklet with the maps and everything.
The booklet also details, I believe, every single badge, including just, like, the visitor's badge, for if you're curious about what Con of the North is, but don't necessarily want to commit to playing.
Yep, there is just a visitor badge. You'll go up to, like, the front desk, ask for a visitor badge. They'll give you one, and you can walk around and observe things, and then at the end of the day, give them back the badge. Mm-hmm. So there's pre-registration before the new year, and then pre-registration after the new year, and then on-site registration, which costs different on which day because it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So of course, if you're only registering as a player for Sunday, that's $30 on the day of. Mm-hmm. But the whole point of pre-registration is you're registering beforehand, so it's cheaper. And in fact, GMs, people running games, get a discount over people just playing.
Yes.
Because they want to incentivize more games being run. So GMs before the new year only pay $40 to get signed on for all 3 days, which if you're pre-registering, you're automatically signing on for all 3 days. The players pay $45 to register for all 3 days. And then there's a secret third option. If all you want to do is run games, you are not planning on playing in any games, but only running games, you can get a referee badge, which keep in mind the GM badge is $40. It's $5 cheaper if you want to run games alongside playing games. The referee badge, if you pre-register, is $2. Mm-hmm. $2, which that's for a couple different reasons. One is they want to incentivize as many people running games as possible. So if all you want to do is run games, it's almost free to go play Con of the North. But also there are like Pathfinder Society and D&D Adventurers League that will be pulling a lot of DMs in to run their stuff, and therefore it's $2 for each of those people. And therefore, if you just want to run games, it's extremely free, and that gives you an opportunity, like, let's say you have a game you want to play test, or, like, otherwise show off, but you don't plan on playing any games, like you just have a board game in development you want to give feedback on or whatnot. That's $2 for all 3 days of the con to get feedback and show off this, like, game you're working on.
Yeah, or say you actually enjoy being a forever DM, but your group members don't enjoy learning new systems aside from the one that you play, being a referee or even just getting the regular GM badge. Allows you to run systems you've always wanted to run, but can never do at your home group.
Yep. So, honestly, if you want to run at least one game, and you're gonna go to Con of the North, get the GM badge. It's cheaper, and you get to, you run one game. You ran a Monster of the Week. Mm-hmm. I ran a Learn to Play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we both had a great time.
Yeah. I will say, I know we're throwing out price numbers. These prices are different than what they were when we went last year, so prices are subject to change, obviously, depending on what the organization needs to keep running. So don't take this $40 as law. It could go up next year.
Yep. But last year they did also have the GMs get slightly cheaper tickets.
Yeah. It's always consistent that GMs, when they pre-register, get slightly cheaper tickets.
Yeah.
And referees, I believe, are always $2. That didn't change from last year. So
at Con of the North, there are also Girl Scouts that just go around. Mm-hmm. There's one area that they just have, like, a stand outside the vendor hall, but also they'll just go around with, like, a wagon and boxes of Girl Scout cookies, and then just, like, stop by game rooms in which games are actively being played and be like, hey, anybody want some Girl Scout cookies? And then you can buy Girl Scout cookies mid-game, and then you can sit there and watch one of your players eat a whole sleeve of, like, trefoils, and then comment about how he's like, oh, I just ate this whole sleeve. And definitely not sit there and eat basically an entire box of caramel delights during a single sitting. The serving size for Thin Mints is one sleeve.
This is true.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that.
Anyways, so our experience with Con of the North.
Mm-hmm.
So my first day, because it's volunteer ran, I decided to volunteer for 4 hours on my first day there. That's the first thing I did because our epic wasn't until later in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed up, walked up to the front, and was like, hey, can I volunteer? And they're like, actually, we're full on volunteers right now. Come back in 2 hours. And I was like, okay. So then I left. And then I came back in 2 hours, and they were like, okay, you can stand up front and give people badges. And I was like, okay, sounds good to me. And then I stood up front and I gave people badges. And it went perfectly fine. Nothing went wrong. Except something went wrong. So the scheduling for events and like getting your badges and that kind of stuff goes through Tabletop Events, which is like an online hosting thing for large tabletop events. Wow, who could have guessed?
Me, I could have. Rip to the rest of you, I'm different.
But for some reason, it crashed in the first day. So there was this period of like a couple hours of me standing at the front desk, and then whenever anybody came up holding their phone and looking confused, just being like, Tabletop Events has crashed. It's not on our end. There's nothing we can do about it. If you need to know your schedule, you can talk to those people over there, and they might be able to pull it up for you. Otherwise, hopefully you know what event it is and what room it is, and if you do, just go there. Just go there at the time and it'll be fine, because you don't need like printed out tickets or anything. You just show up. It's a lot of like honor and trust based system, but you know, as long as people aren't monsters, you can just walk up and go in.
Yeah, the DMs do get lit. Like, they can check to see who all signed up for their game, and so they can look at your name badge and be like, hey, you're not signed up for my game.
I honestly didn't bother checking with mine. I was like, whatever.
I didn't bother checking with mine because I only had 3 of the 5 slots filled.
Yeah.
So if someone new walked up and was like, hey, can I play? I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, sit down.
Sit down.
So, yeah, I had fun volunteering while the servers crashed.
Mm-hmm. And while you were volunteering and the servers were crashing, I was running Monster of the Week because that system is so fun. I was really nervous going into it because day before, when I checked to see how many people I had signed up, I had one person signed up for my event. And so I was fully prepared to try and convince one of the people I came with to join my game so that I could run and I wouldn't have to cancel it. Because Monster of the Week, if you've played, you know that it isn't really a one-player system.
No.
But when I went down, scouted out where my table was, sat down in the lobby kind of outside there because I still had some time, I did get approached by a person who saw I was reading Monster of the Week because I was refreshing myself on the mystery. And she went ahead and signed up for my system, which was awesome and amazing. And when I got there, there was a secret other person who had also signed up for my system. So I had a total of 3 players, and that was very relieving to me to know that we had players for the game.
You had a lot of anxiety leading up to it.
Yeah. I didn't want to cancel my game. But, you know, if I only had one player and I couldn't get anyone else, that's probably what it would have had to come to. Otherwise, it would have been throwing in a DMPC, and that's not the most fun.
Yeah.
But we ran a book. If you have it's not Codex of Worlds, it's the second one.
Tome of Mysteries?
It's the Tome of Mysteries, yeah. Tome of Mysteries is basically almost like a monster manual for Monster of the Week. It's the second book, and it's mainly just filled with pre-written mysteries. Hence why it's called Tome of Mysteries. So I ran one from that book called The Circles, about weird crop circles in Iowa, which I thought would be very fun for people in Minnesota to experience what it would be like to be like 100 miles south.
In a strange land far away. Iowa.
Very fun mystery if you haven't played or run it. Spoilers, I guess. The whole mystery is that there's crop circles and flashing lights. Weird conspiracy guy in the town says it's aliens and is gonna go visit. Truth is, the person who owns the farm out there is a minotaur, and the corn circles are his labyrinth, with which he uses to lure people in so he can consume them. Once every 7 years, he has to consume like 3 people so that he can maintain his immortality. It was very fun. The group we had a Snoop, which is like the journalist type thing. We had our spell slinger, and then what was not the crooked or the robbed, but the other one that I grabbed. I can't remember all the sheets I had pulled for it. You helped me pull the sheets.
Yeah, but I don't remember. What stat were they good at?
The expert.
Okay.
I had to think about the character for a second. It was the expert. Those were our dream team, and they did solve the mystery.
Hell yeah.
And they did save the conspiracy theorist guy. It was very fun. Our Snoop played the character like an online influencer.
Hell yeah.
Which is kind of what I was hoping for. Our spell slinger really leaned into the goth kid aesthetic. And our expert was very worried. It was a good game. I had lots of fun running it. It was really weird to run for people that I'd never met before.
Yep.
Because I didn't know what the dynamic was going in. But I don't know what else to say.
No, unless there's like any we'll circle around to like closing thoughts and what we learned and whatnot.
I mean, if you want, are we doing like little tales from the Taverns tables about our things?
We'll do that at the end.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's right here, the what we learned.
Okay.
So, then we did the Friday Epic, which was the two of us sat down on a table together and played Harold and Leo again, our Battlemaster Fighter and our Warlock Battlemaster Fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
We are a Battlemaster Fighter household here. Battlemaster Fighter, like, I love spellcasting in 5. It gives me so many options. It gives me, like, I can do this or I can do that. I can solve this problem with magic. But there's something so much fun about being like, I attack. Okay, I hit. Hey, DM, I need a saving throw as I attack. Okay, they're knocked prone. This is an advantage. I attack, and I deal this extra damage, and I attack, and I deal this extra... Okay, they took half their health. Okay, I'm gonna action surge, and I'm gonna attack with advantage. Hey, can I get a wisdom saving throw, DM? Okay, it's gonna deal extra damage.
Our tavern keep here is no stranger to being the bane of a DM's existence. Certainly not with a Battlemaster Fighter.
Not because I do like the Reddit, like pushes glasses up into your temple, into your fucking bridge of your nose type white room build where it's like, yeah, I can heal 40 HP at level 1. Yeah, I can do 60 damage with the first level spell slot at level 3. It's just, I build very interactive. I want to play the most D&D.
Yeah, you do your Reddit pushes glasses up when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3, and you're like, I want my magic missile to do 90 damage at first level.
Yeah.
When it comes to the actual table, you're like, so I've made a character with so much synergy.
Yeah. I maximize the synergy. It's not like power gaming, but it is like, Battlemaster, very inhuman. They took martial adept, superior technique fighting style,
what it
Battlemaster
is
Fighter.
With you is you come up with a character concept, you create that character, and you go, okay, these are the notes I've taken. Now it's time for version 2.
Yeah, I do that. I do version 1 and then version 2.
Because that's like all I know about your characters. Like, you had your healing wizard, halfling. And now you have your healing wizard, halfling.
Well, healing wizard Azamar. He was transmutation.
I was talking about that one's sidekick.
The sidekick was a human. Clenmock was a human.
I was talking about Welby Tea Leaf.
Oh, Welby Tea Leaf was not a healing wizard.
I thought that's what you said yesterday at game, though.
No, he's a warlock. He's my broken warlock because I didn't know how to play warlock at the time.
What was that figure that he used?
That was Welby Tea Leaf. But he was a halfling warlock with an owl familiar.
The way people were talking about him last night, I thought that he was a healing wizard. I never played with Welby Tea Leaf. But you did have your healing wizard, Azamar.
My healing wizard, which was a transmutation wizard, Azamar, which I then made Lindal Gold Touch, which is a healing wizard, Mark of Healing halfling.
And then you had Arthur, your Battlemaster, very human Battlemaster Fighter. And then you were like, wait. There are a couple more things I can do here. Harold.
And then I made Harold Shendrin.
Your variant human Battlemaster Fighter.
Yeah, and the second one is like, okay, I see where I could synergize more. Here's the maximized synergy. Like, Lindal could, like, fully heal the party and use, like, 4 spell slots to do so. Like...
Yeah. What was the change between Arthur and Harold?
I think the main thing was just adding personality in for Harold. And I think I took, like, a different set of maneuvers, because I don't think I actually had Brace on Arthur. So then I took Brace on Harold.
I believe there was something something else different.
There may have been.
Because I distinctly remember when you created Harold, you were like, oh man, I could have done this with Arthur. That would have made him so much better.
It was probably superior technique then.
Probably, yeah.
Which is an extra die and an extra 2 maneuvers.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah, so I maximize the synergy the second time around, and then I move on to a new concept. But it gets annoying for some DMs. But back to the epic, we've been entirely sidetracked here. The DM was getting a little bit annoyed because basically every time I attacked an enemy, I'd ask for a strength saving throw, and then I'd ask for a wisdom saving throw. Because I'd tripping attack, they would fail, and therefore they would be knocked prone, so all my attacks would have advantage, and then I would attack them with advantage and make them make a wisdom saving throw against menacing attack.
Yeah, I got to the point where he hit someone and didn't say anything, and the DM was like, what, you're not going to ask for a strength saving throw?
And I was like, I'm all out of maneuvers.
She was so happy.
I've used all mine for this thing. But then we had a short rest saved up, so that was our final fight of the session, but in theory we could have short rested immediately after, and I could have gone in the next fight and gone, I attack, can I get a strength saving throw? Hey DM, can I get a strength saving throw? I stabbed this guy.
No.
But I stabbed him.
No.
Oh, okay. So that was really fun, and that was the epic. So there's a lot of community and familiarity. In fact, the DM we got for the epic was the same DM we had for our first game as Harold and Leo.
Yes. Very fun. Love her as a DM. She's great.
Mm-hmm. So that was fun, and there's a certain amount of familiarity there, and our table was just really fun for the epic. Then we went back to the hotel room and had a long rest.
Waking up the next day to do the second session in our Savage Worlds campaign of sorts.
Our Savage World group that meets up once a year.
Yeah, that's what I like to call it. This guy, Nate.
Yes.
He runs Savage Worlds at Con of the North, and he has one that's the first session in a campaign, and then he does one that's the next session, and I believe next year he's having the third session in that campaign. And so you can come back, play the exact same character you did the last year, and progress the story even more.
Yep.
So it's our perfect attendance Savage Worlds campaign.
Yes. So we reached Savage Worlds Part 2. Last year we attended this gala at a museum, and bad guys showed up.
Yep.
By bad guys we mean neo-Nazis.
We were a world famous, not hunter, but we had found a relic and returned it to the proper country that it belongs to, and we were being celebrated at a gala honoring that stuff. Then some neo-Nazis showed up.
Tried to kidnap somebody, we shot down a drone, we crashed a car, we went into a basement and found more stuff. We found this weird cross that had numbers on it. That's all last session.
Yeah. This session, we took our weird number cross and tried to figure out what it was about.
And we found 4 mountains in Germany that had the corresponding heights. And then, of course, we drew the line from one to the other and one to the other, and where they crossed.
X marks the spot.
Where there was a salt mine.
Yes, which had been previously used as a Nazi bunker.
So then we went to Germany.
We did some hiking, we shot some drones, we reprogrammed those drones.
We did some lockpicking lawyer, we found some treasure, and then we choke pointed, baby.
My favorite point is both these sessions I've been in so far, my character, Lynn, her hindrance is impulsive. And at some point in both the sessions, someone has said, don't you think what you're doing's a little impulsive? And either I, in the first session, which I pointed to it on the sheet, or this last session, the DM leaned over and pointed at the impulsive on my sheet to the person who said that.
And then we choke pointed because the neo-Nazis were trying to come down the hallway to kill us and whatnot. So one of our characters threw a Molotov cocktail in the hallway.
And then I did my impulsive thing of stepping into the tunnel. It's like a metal tunnel into the void, and taking my shotgun and just shooting.
Yeah, just blasting a shotgun down a narrow metal hallway that these guys are coming down. These poor motherfuckers didn't have a chance.
The fun part was that my dice kept exploding on the damage rolls.
Savage Worlds is an exploding dice system, so if you roll the max, you get to roll that die again and add it back in.
And if you roll the max on that, you get to roll that die again and add them. And my dice kept exploding on all the damage rolls in that fight. So people just kept dying before they even really got to do things.
Yeah, so your dice would explode on damage. Vaughn's dice, our buddy who came with us, his dice would always explode on like ability checks. So it'd be like, hey, I want to do this thing. And like usually you roll like maximum, like in theory you roll like a d8, so you're going to roll like a 7. He'd be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. That's a 28 to do this thing.
It's such a fun game. If you have the chance to go to Con of the North and he happens to be running the first session of that, play it.
Yeah, play some Con of the North. Or play at Con of the North and play some Savage Worlds. It's a great time. Now, we're gonna cut to me, because I went off by myself. I said goodbye to my friends and sat down with strangers. And I did a Learn to Play D&D 5th edition. And that has reinstilled within me the joy of DMing. I had forgotten how fun DMing is, but I sat down with these group of strangers who apparently didn't know how to play D&D. I like asked them how much TTRPG experience they had, how much D&D experience they had. All of them were like, except for one of them, were like, we barely have any experience. We barely know what a TTRPG is. And then one of them like had played 3.5 and wanted to know how 5 was. So I gave them the brief rundown that 5e is essentially a simplified version. It's not dumbed down like some people say, but it's designed to be simple enough that newbies can get into it, but still have the bite that older people are still looking for. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of old grognards get like hung up on the fact that it is simplified and like there's no way it has any complexity, and then they don't realize it has complexity.
I also think they don't realize all the optional rules that you can add in.
Oh yeah, you can add in so many optional rules
if you really want a crunch.
But the joy of DMing has been reignited within me because these people, although they were new, very much understood. Like one of the things they kept doing was whenever they were in a room and it was somebody's time to do something, I would immediately point at somebody and be like, Dandrolox, the barbarian, what are you doing? Isla, what are you doing? Okay, you did your thing. Okay, let's play that out. Okay, Gwendolyn. Actually, Gwendolyn would have been on. Gwendolyn, what are you doing? Oh, you did your thing. Okay, here's how that play out. Stamaya, what are you doing? And I was constantly moving the spotlight around, and like whenever they wanted to do something, I told them exactly where it was on their sheet. They looked at it, rolled the dice. None of them were like, except for one time, one of them rolled the wrong die, but like most of them knew majority of the time which die were which. So it played out very nicely. It worked out wonderfully, and the joy of DMing has been re-sparked within me. Yeah. What did you do during that time?
So our other friend that came with us and we went to go learn to play Warhammer. And
War Machine,
sorry. They're both miniature games. But the people at the table from before weren't getting up and leaving, and we didn't want to say something. So we instead did not do that and went to the vendor hall.
Yep. They just cruised around the vendor hall.
However, the last time you left us alone, i.e. when you went to go try volunteering the first time, we got pulled into a board game. Yeah. Which we didn't mention at the beginning.
Oh, right.
Because me and my friend, we were sitting there, Ryan went off to go do his little volunteer stuff or find out when he could. And we were sitting there and this guy approaches us and he goes like, you look like the kind of people who want to play a board game. And we were kind of like, sure. And so he led us over to his table and said he had a 5-minute board game, a 15-minute board game, and a 45-minute board game. And I was like, let's go all in. Let's play this 45-minute board game. And he was super excited about that. And we played Conquest Princess Fashion is Power, a lovely board game where you are magical girls in space using the power of fashion and friendship to defeat evil.
And I showed up just before they started playing and was brought in.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was a pretty fun board game.
It was such a fun board game. We ended up pledging on Kickstarter.
Cooperative bag builder.
Yeah, so it was fun. Highly recommend it. The Kickstarter's over and will have been over for a week by the time you hear this video. But the Kickstarter was for an expansion pack, so I would assume that means Conquest Princess itself is out and you can buy it somewhere. If you like cooperative board games, which are my favorites, Conquest Princess.
Yep. So,
anyways, back to
the next thing we did, which was punk rock, but actual punk, but also glam rock.
Yeah. So during the Saturday Night Epic, we didn't go to the Saturday Night Epic. Because at the time, we didn't realize that there was a difference between the Friday and the Saturday Night Epic. Now we know that Friday's Epic leads into Saturday's Epic, so we will probably go to both of them next year. But we learned a new system, Velvet Generation, a system where you change minds through the power of rock and roll. And maybe gun.
So, Velvet Generation is very brief synopsis. The world used to have rock and roll music and broadcasted into space through radio waves. Aliens heard this and was like, hell yeah, dude, this music has saved our planet. We want to go visit these humans. So they built generation ships and came here. Unfortunately, the year is 2093. There's been 2073. There's been complete climate collapse. Monopolies have taken over the entire planet, and there's a cultural hegemony restricting any sort of self-expression. I love unrealistic, far-off fantasy that I can't relate to at all. Definitely not a TTRPG system that would give me an existential crisis. And you play as Star Children, unless you don't. You can also play as normal people.
Star Children are the aliens. You can be a Star Child or an alien, but regardless, you have some affiliation with the underground rock and roll scene.
You are an underground glam rock band.
Really, any kind of rock you want. I know this, when the one shot we played, we weren't really glam rock so much as the DM described. Funky, weird rock, think Minneapolis rock scene in the 90s, as he said multiple times. Those words mean nothing to me, but they might mean something to you.
We were in the Twin Cities, so it does very much track.
Yeah.
But, so you're a rock band in the underground trying to feed into the rebellion, feed into the revolution, and Star Children actually live fairly short lives.
Yeah.
So they live like 45 years. 30. One of their main drivers is, hey, we want to see the end of this. We want to see the world changed by our music and our things. So they want the revolution done in 15 years. So they are extremely driven to get it done.
There's other kinds of Star Children, kinds you don't get to play as, called the Black Holes. They are the ones who have given into nihilism. Oh, you didn't want rock and roll, you don't deserve it. I'm going to make sure it's wiped off the face of this planet type thing. There are two revolutionary cells, Velvet, let's change the world through the power of love and music, and the Cobalt Army, let's change the world through the power of rock and roll and gun.
Let's change the power through love, music, and this gun I found.
Yeah. Your band really has a choice which one they want to go with. Our one-shot didn't really get into any of the revolution stuff. It was kind of like the beginning of something. The DM very much explained that this system is very much a campaign-oriented system.
Yeah.
So our specific session focused more on changing the mind of this one black hole and getting in with the revolution rather than doing any revolutionary actions, which is its own mechanic in the game.
Yeah, and the revolutionary actions are like very much like you choose what aspect of the ministry you're trying to get under, how you're trying to get under it, like what your ultimate goal is, etc., etc. It's actually fairly in-depth. It's very much punk rock, but real punk. You are actually fighting the system. You aren't punk rock selling albums to some large distribution corporation and like raking money off the top.
I highly recommend this system. It's super fun. One of the mechanics we really enjoyed was the relationship mechanic.
There are distinct relationship mechanics, and we'll circle back to this when we discuss what we learned, but because that's something I want to like take and use and stuff. Relationships are mechanized, but in a good way. Like you are given a list of your fellow band members and your relationship to them, and then a certain number is assigned to that. There's mechanical things, whatever. I'm not going to get into the mechanics. What matters is that you have love, friendship, and rivalry. And like, sure, your rivalry could be a friendly rivalry, but it is still rivalry. And we had like basically everyone there took like a fish to water to the relationship mechanics, because like our two characters were in love with each other.
Very difficult for us to play.
Very difficult.
But we managed.
The guy playing our basically face, but he was...
a firebrand.
A firebrand. His name was Hunter. He had a rivalry with essentially like our stage crew guy, sort of.
Yeah, our roadie Vince.
Who
was in love with him,
who
mind
had
you.
love. Which is funny because if you have rivalry with somebody, you can take one of their die with the number. We're getting slightly in the mechanic. But if you have love with somebody, you can give them a die with that number. So it's legitimately just constantly Vince giving to Hunter and Hunter taking from Vince.
It's a very one-sided toxic relationship thing. My character was friends with Vince and had a rivalry with Hunter, so that very much played into how I felt about what was going on.
Yeah, so basically Hunter would say something and then your character, Claire, right?
Yeah, Claire.
Claire would be like, what's that supposed to mean, huh? Why are you talking bad about Vince?
At one point, he goes, he's a human, we can't trust him. No, every member of the band is a star child except for Claire, so I'm like, what the fuck does that mean, Hunter?
Because Claire is also a human.
I was the token human in a way.
Which brought me in, Red, because Red's in love with Claire, a human, and Hunter's being like, we can't trust them, they're a human. So Red's like, the fuck does that mean, Hunter?
It was really fun. I really enjoyed the system. I ended up buying it on TTRPG. You can get it's print on demand plus PDF. Right now, if you buy the print on demand, you can get the PDF with it, as all things should be forever and always. Amen. So there's a mechanic in this that didn't quite come up in our one shot that I read through that I really want to talk about because I really like it. It plays with fame and the relationship stuff.
Okay.
There's a fame mechanic which you can use your star power, which is to call on your fame and use that in place of a die roll. The system really is built around making big dice pools.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can call on your star power to replace a roll if you want to. And your star power increases as you throw hype tokens into certain clocks and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can choose whether to increase your own star power or the band's star power, right? Yeah. Relationships all have a number by them. That determines the strength of the relationship, which determines, like, what kind of die you can give, take, or receive.
Yeah.
But so in the game mechanics, it's technically an optional rule, but I really love it. If you choose to increase your own star power and it goes above the band's star power, each time you increase your star power by 1 above the band's, you have to subtract 1 from the strength of all your relationships.
Oh.
As you're slowly growing away from the band, and it can reduce your relationships down to 1, which make them effectively useless because you discard 1s when you roll.
Right. So you end up just slowly, like, you end up pulling away, and now you kind of like are almost a solo act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been reading through the system stuff. I really love it. Definitely get it if you want a really fun power of rock and roll and friendship and gun system. But that was a mechanic that I read about when I was reading through that, and I hadn't mentioned it to you yet. But very cool in my opinion.
And then we played that till midnight, and then we went and long rested.
And then we woke up in the morning, super hyped to go play in this level 19 Lich Lair 5e thing.
Reliquary of the Ash Queen, a 19th level DMDC adventure. I made a clockwork soul sorcerer named Clark. That's how he pronounces his name. His name's Clark, but he has a real bad fantasy Bostonian accent. So it's Clark.
I made a kobold paladin, the last of a trio in a trench group, who has vowed his life to making sure no one else suffers the same pain and loss he did that one fateful night. And we were very excited, very hype about all this. Our other friend, they planned on playing one of the pre-gens the DM came up with, Goliath.
I think it was a Goliath giant barbarian.
Yeah. Specifically, the DM described it as to live out your fantasy of being tall.
Which is funny, because he's one of the tallest people I know.
Yeah, some fantasy.
But he's real tall.
Listener name.
Non-patron name.
I couldn't remember if he was a patron or not.
His payments keep failing.
Listener name. But we were super excited, super hyped. Then I opened my email and the DM's sick and can't run.
Yep. So, unfortunately, we got canceled on.
But not all was lost. In his email, he was like, hey, if you guys do want to do this at a later date, let me know. We can schedule something outside of the convention. So I talked with the other two and got in contact, and I was like, we would love to do that. Here's my contact information. We have established contact. He plans on making a Discord server. Therefore, I don't have to keep trying to get you guys to answer his questions.
Oh, okay.
Through me.
Yeah.
Still very excited.
Yeah.
To play Yerk McPerson.
And then, of course, because we got canceled, we had extra time for the day.
So we went to game stores.
We went to game stores, and in fact, we came home from the con with 3 different TTRPG systems.
3?
Because we got Spire.
Yeah.
And then we got our 2 blind dates with the TTRPG.
We got our blind dates with TTRPGs. Reviews to come soon. We have not yet opened them.
We went to the Tower Games in the Twin Cities, and they had just, I guess because it was near Valentine's Day, I don't know if they do it constantly, but they had essentially in, present wrap, like the kind of thing you would wrap a present in. Wrapping paper. There we go.
Yeah.
In wrapping paper, they had little booklets for TTRPGs with a brief description on the front, the supplies, what you'll need, and then like a brief description at the bottom. Theme, how many players. And it's just blind date with the TTRPG. Pick this up, go home with it, try a new indie TTRPG. So you picked the one that was Cowboys.
Lonely Cowboys.
Yeah. Cowboys with like an illness searching for a cure or something.
Lonely Cowboys with terminal illness. You picked up Verbal Sparring.
I picked up one that the description was like, if you're a fan of the verbal duels from Star Wars and The Princess Bride, this is for you. Like verbal sparring based on competitive dueling.
Yeah, so more to come about those later.
When we do our plays of our blind dates with the TTRPG and maybe do a 2-person TTRPG episode number 2.
Yeah.
For 2 persons. So, moving on, because this is Tales from the Tavern Tables, we have to end with what we learned.
Well, let's talk about some quick highlights from our sessions.
Normally
when we do a Tales from the Tavern's Tables, we're like, this thing happened. This was a scene that happened.
Yeah.
So let's do quick little scenes.
Yeah.
We'll start in the order of your list.
Yeah. When I was volunteering, tabletop events broke and it was a whole thing.
When my Monster of the Week group was going, like I said, my Snoop was playing like an internet cryptid influencer. The conspiracy theorist in town was also an internet cryptid influencer. They got together to do a collab. The local guy, super excited about it, big fan of her, gave her a bulletproof vest. Think about, like, what you might get for $25 off of Amazon if you searched bulletproof vest. And he handed it to her, and as he was looking through his other merch to give her as they were about to go on this major live stream hunt together, he started telling her about how, and my wife embroidered all of the logos on these things and helps me so much, and my player's just like, I don't want to abandon him here because he's being so nice, but I also don't want him to go on the hunt because he will die. And abandoned him while he was telling her all these things.
Oh no.
Friday Night Epic.
I stabbed, and also I stabbed, and the DM got kind of annoyed.
So, on our very first mission, we were stealing a ship. That was actually the mission opposed to our last mission, where it was destroy the ship, and we stole it anyways.
Yeah.
Harold got hit by something and he wasn't doing good.
I was left with like 2 HP.
And you made the decision, I'm gonna duck below deck because I don't want Leo to see me like this.
Yeah.
Goes below deck to where we know there's a mage down there casting spells.
Yep.
Dies. Or gets knocked down.
No.
No?
No. I just like stabbed
you got banished.
Yeah, I stabbed the mage a bunch of times and the mage was like, oh no, I'm gonna die if he remains here. Get banished. vanished.
And then the mage returned from below. Leo didn't see any of this, but everyone else is freaking out like, the mage returned and Harold did not. Surely the worst must have happened.
Harold must be dead.
Mage was only up for like a round before she died, and Harold popped back into existence.
Yep.
Long enough for him to, fix his hair.
I was like left at 2 hit points. I went under the I went into the ship so they couldn't see me. I used my second wind, so I gained health and then stabbed this mage a bunch of times. So it seemed like I, badly injured, went into this room.
Uh-huh.
This badly injured mage walked out and got killed. And then I walked out looking healthier than when I walked in.
Yeah.
So our rogue was like, oh, that's nice of the cleric to have healed him.
It was a good time. Savage Worlds.
I mean, the tunnel.
The tunnel?
We choke pointed those motherfuckers. You fired a shotgun down it.
Yeah.
We threw Molotov cocktails.
So the tunnel was a wind vent for the mind, an air vent for the mind.
An air vent for the mind is what happens when you do trepanning.
Fuck you. It was an air vent for the mind that we picked the lock, walked past the blades, went through, we relocked the lock, importantly.
Yeah.
Set up the drone that we reprogrammed to go to Vince's phone with its camera. Turned on the fan to vent the mine.
Yeah.
For safety reasons.
Yeah.
So when we came back because we knew they were coming because of the camera,
and
right?
multiple gunshots.
Multiple gunshots, but there was the camera that was kind of like the really big indicator.
Yeah.
They shot the lock, they come through, they shoot out the fan. We have the time to get back. It's a giant mine. We're probably halfway down.
Yeah.
But we have the time to come back because of all the stuff we've set up in their way.
Yeah.
Vince throws the fucking Molotov. I start fucking just blasting.
The rest of us are just like firing pistols down the hallway. It was like obviously supposed to be a somewhat difficult, it's supposed to be the fight for the session. And instead we just choke pointed these motherfuckers and just blasted them out with like cones and AoEs. And like, it was just like, well, get fucked.
Afterwards, you went back to raid the untouched vault.
Because I had
Greedy Major
as my hindrance, and we uncovered like, imagine Indiana Jones or like whatever the one movie is that they like go and retrieve cultural artifacts from the Nazis.
If you know anything about Nazis, you know that they stole a bunch of cultural artifacts from a bunch of different countries and they kept them in vaults.
Yeah.
We found one that hadn't been found previously.
Yeah, so all the items were there. So by the time the reporters and official people had showed up, almost all the items were there.
Yeah, because I stepped out and called the museum.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't about to carry this out by myself. We are up a mountain.
Yeah.
So they get there, they're pulling everything out. It's this major historical find.
Yeah.
We're heroes about to go on this big press tour because of what we found. And you had to give the rest of us bribes.
Basically, I started taking stuff, and like the guy who was like a priest was like, we can't be taking this. And I was like, will this holy relic change your mind? And he's like, I will take this tithing for the church. Thank you.
Definitely for the church.
Definitely for the church. And then I continued taking stuff. And then, like I said, the reporter was like, almost all the artifacts are here.
Yeah, it was good. Your learn to play.
My learn to play. The most important thing is I learned how to enjoy DMing again. I learned that I can very quickly switch the spotlight. Like, as long as someone tells me what they're doing, moving the spotlight constantly keeps everybody engaged. And the most...
No fun moments?
I mean, there were fun moments because they met Meepo, the life cleric. So I had pre-gens for all of them, and one of them was a life cleric. And the life cleric decided to play it as like, whoa, chill, dude. There's no need for violence. Sacred flame. And basically that's what they did. They were like, yo, dude, no need for violence. Sacred flame. And then the fighter just like, I built the because I had a fighter and a barbarian, and I didn't want to either of them feel outclassed or outtanked. So it was a very inhuman heavy armor master. So they reduced all incoming bludgeoning, slashing, or piercing damage by 3. So when the goblins attacked them and did a d6 plus 2, I rolled a 1 both times when they hit. which was 3 damage. The damage was reduced by 3. The fighter took no damage, although being attacked twice. And took no damage because they were just like, I have armor. So that was fun. And once again, like I said, I regained a joy for DMing.
There's something about DMing newbies that really rekindles your joy.
Yep.
But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Punk rock, but make it punk.
Punk rock, but make it punk. I mean, just the relationship mechanic.
Yeah. My favorite part, so in the game, there was a guy who dropped off with our roadie. Basically, a digital catalog of the entire history of music before the Ministry erased it. To our knowledge, probably the last of it, right? Across like 5 different floppy disks sort of things. And this system, one of the specific scene types that it has like 3. One of them's banter, which is where you progress the story through role-playing only, no dice rolls. And we were in one of those scenes, and Hunter, the one I had a rivalry with, would come up with an idea, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, that was an idea. Maybe keep them in your head. They're better up here. You don't want to let anyone else on those winning ideas.
The relationship mechanic was really coming into play because me and Claire were like on the same side.
Uh-huh.
Because love.
Yeah.
And then you and Hunter were like butting heads, and I had friendship with Hunter.
It wasn't butting heads because he had friendship with me. He believed us to be friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't fucking like you, dude. And I believed me and Daisy to be friends, but Daisy didn't like me.
Yeah, so you and Daisy were like, Daisy wasn't going along with you. I didn't like Daisy, so I wasn't going along with Daisy. Hunter loved Daisy, so Hunter was like, but I really want to go along with Daisy.
But Daisy loved Vince.
Daisy loved Vince, and then me and Claire were friends with Hunter, so we're like, but Hunter... I was friends with Hunter. Hunter was friends with you.
I hated that guy.
But I was like, Hunter, you have to go along with us. So the relationship mechanics were coming into play there. And it was like, even though it wasn't actually a mechanical difference there, it was great roleplay.
It was beautiful. What we learned. So, what I learned is that DMing is very fun. Yeah.
If you go in knowing what you're doing when you sit down for a session and knowing like an idea of what's going on and what's going to happen, you can very much just move the spotlight around, keep things happening. If you ask somebody, hey, what are you doing? They immediately zone back in. Great time. Keep the spotlight moving, especially if you're playing with new people, but just keep the spotlight moving because then they will keep interested.
Yes. Playing TTRPGs is fun, even if it's with strangers.
Playing TTRPGs is fun, even with strangers. Mechanizing relationships seems like it would be something that would like get between my teeth. It'd be a bugbear. I wouldn't like it. It's like, it'd bother me. But the way it's done in Velvet Generation is like, it's not extremely intrusive. Mm-hmm. It's not limiting.
No.
And what it does is because it's mechanized, it is always on your mind. There's a reason you should be thinking about your relationship with the other characters.
Yeah.
Which then makes it so you play more into that because you're thinking about it more often. I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you how marked on my sheet I know any of the other players in our Monster of the Week group.
I could be honest, I think you could tell me one. Uncle.
I could tell you Uncle. But, like, I look at my Monster of the Week sheet and yeah, I could look at it and tell you after I look. But, like, I know I hated Daisy, had friendship with Hunter and Vince, and loved Claire.
Yes.
Because it was mechanized. And I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, that has specific mechanical things. I will keep that in mind, which will also keep in mind the relationships, and that leads into more played relationships. Mm-hmm. So I think mechanizing relationships, as long as it's not intrusive and limiting, but rather like a boon based on how strong your relationship is.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I will say, Monster of the Week, I feel like its relationships are more so that you can skip the hardest part of starting a TTRPG, getting the band together.
Session 0, why are we here?
Yeah. So some TTRPGs have it to facilitate that. This one definitely had it as a mechanic to facilitate roleplay throughout.
And the most important question, will we go again next year?
Probably not, you know. We didn't have that much fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes, of course.
We even got new tools for when we run games next year. I have a plan to run 3 different things next year, post the one I ran this year. I really want to run Warlock Joe's Dungeon for Babies.
Mm-hmm.
I want to run another Monster of the Week, not entirely sure what. And I'm really thinking definitely Wizards for the 3rd one. We got some cool items.
Thinking of running maybe another Learn to Play.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something of a decent level for D&D. And then a secret 3rd thing. Ooh. You hear that, listeners? Secret 3rd thing.
But we got some cool tools to help us with running. We got some, I don't know how you would describe them, kind of like nameplate sort of thing.
Yeah, little placards.
That go in front of the character with the character name on it, their passive perception, AC, total hit points, that sort of thing.
Spell save, DC, lineage.
Make things easier. We made some Baby's First Dice sets.
Baby's First Dice set.
That's where each dice is a distinctly different color, so that if you have a new player who doesn't really understand which dice is which, you can give them Baby's First Dice and be like, I need you to roll the red one. That's the D20.
I realized, I saw a set of, original dice, original AD&D dice or something along that. One of the early sets came with dice that each one was a different color, and the point of that was you could be roll the D8, that's the green one. Mm-hmm. And we're like, oh, that's great for doing, a Learn to Play, because then if each die is a different color, I can be roll the D6, that's the purple one.
Yeah.
So we got 3 sets of Baby's First Dice, as we're calling them, where the D20 is red, the D12 is orange.
It's rainbow, red through purple, with pink being the last, with red starting at the D20, pink being the D4, so everything down, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink.
Which I think we have it such that, is it the D10 or the percentile that's yellow?
I want to say the percentile.
Okay.
I think. I don't remember, I'd have to look at our dice set real quick, but I want to say it's the percentile.
Okay.
We do have plans to make a few more Baby's First Dice sets.
Yeah.
So that, in theory, if we had an entire table of people who had never seen dice before, we could hand each of them Baby's First Dice.
Yep. So we got some tools which will be useful, and we're excited. I'm already excited for next year, you know?
Yeah, me too.
They haven't even, officially announced when it will be. It's President's Day weekend. But they need to go through their Magnetron meeting, as it's called, discuss how the con went.
Yeah, if you are part of the Discord, you can sit in on the Magnetron meetings. That's all their meetings are very open and run on the Discord. So if you want to understand more about what's going on behind the scenes, Con of the North has a Discord. You can jump in on those meetings. They are more than willing to have community input. It's a community organization. So I think they'll have to do their Magnetron vote, because they vote on who's going to be the Magnetrons every year. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
We can actually give them a timeline for you.
I don't know if they'll have an updated timeline yet.
They'll have the upcoming meetings.
Elections and con review.
Yep. So Magnetron meeting, elections and after con review. The elections and after con review are March 9th, which I think is going to be after this episode comes out. Let's see. So, on the day it comes out.
Yeah. So today, the day this episode comes out today, is the elections and after con review. It'll be going from noon to 5 p.m. It'll be in the Discord, if you care about that. Otherwise, their next one after that is March 9th, where they actually start planning. April 9th, where they actually start planning next year's.
Yep. So, are we just going to skip Max's Monster Minute?
We are at an hour 40.
Yeah, that's fair. We will skip Max's Monster Minute. Sorry, listeners, no Max's Monster Minute.
Aside from everything else, if you happen to be in the Twin Cities and you go to Source Games, you can see one of the original D&D box sets. They have one on display.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether it's first, second, or third, printing, but they do have the wood grain box.
Yeah. I'm sure if we sat there with the articles detailing the differences between them, we could probably figure it out. But it's one of the first printings.
Yeah, so that was real cool just to see the wood grain box. Because I knew about the brown box, I knew about the wood grain box, but I'd never, actually seen it. So they also have a copy of Chainmail, which, if you know your D&D history, D&D an extension of chainmail.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Starting off strong with, what does the E in E. Gary Gygax stand for?
Good old Ernest.
That's right.
So, fun fact, the wizard that shows up named Tensor, as in Tensor's floating disc, is an anagram of Ernest because his son's name was also Ernest, and that's the character his son was playing, was Tensor.
That's cute. Module WG4, the Forgotten Temple of Tharzidun, is the fourth module in the WG series, true or false?
True.
Ooh, it's false.
Damn.
Due to shifting internal plans, WG4 is the first module coded WG.
What? Then it isn't WG4. These motherfuckers don't know how numbers work.
Sorry, babe. Shifting internal plans. Which bald, white-bearded, evil sorcerer was a former ally of Ringler Run, but later became his foe, aided by the treacherous Skyla?
Nightmare question. I don't know what any of that means. Who the fuck is Ringler Run? Who the fuck is the Onceler? Mordenkainen.
You think Mordenkainen's an evil sorcerer?
Yes.
No, Kellic.
Cool, yeah, sure. Good old Kellic, my favorite character from D&D lore. He sure did portray fucking Ringle Run and hung out with Skyla.
Which spell, named after a Greyhawk wizard, conjures a phantom watchdog that can defend you or guard an area?
Oh, I didn't know Mordenkainen was from Greyhawk. Mordekainen's faithful hound.
That's correct.
That's his dog.
His dog.
His dog. He's good. He's a good boy.
Okay. The rest, you have to pay me if you want to hear it.
Yeah, that's gonna be the Patreon cut. Speaking of Patreon patrons for $5 more get access to the cold open, cold outro, and all the diatribes. Which there's probably gonna be quite a few this episode. We have been recording for almost an hour and 45 minutes at this point. We had a lot to talk about. So, once again, like I said, patrons get access to the cold outro, cold open, get access to a special channel on the Discord. Speaking of which, we do have a Discord. Feel free to join it. Talk about TTRPGs, talk about possibly Magic the Gathering, talk about TTRPGs other than Dungeons and Dragons, possibly find groups, etc. Make sure to follow us, like our posts on social medias. We're basically on all the social medias minus Threads. So we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Mastodon, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Tumblr, and we're on Patreon. So, Dice.camp instance of Mastodon. Dice.camp instance of Mastodon. So go to those, like and share our posts because it really helps out the podcast. Share us via word of mouth. Very important. Helps the podcast grow. We appreciate every one of you. We appreciate every single one of you who listens, who, interacts with us in any way. Really just, share, follow, like, spread the word, because word of mouth is how podcasts spread, and we appreciate it very much. We appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, make sure to tip the barmaids.